Oh, that means we're live. Hey, this is Elliot. We're going to do a Political Radar Q&A with our producers and our hosts. So,
hello.
I got Rhonda here. Hopefully there's going to be like a lower third underneath us. And across the way, we have Daniel.
Hey, guys.
He's our executive producer. That's what I call him in the chat thing.
Yeah, you want to try that again?
Executive. That's how it's spelled. You never noticed.
Nope.
Yeah,
did not notice.
I call him the executive producer.
Don't count on him for spelling.
Yeah, no.
And then this guy, I always forget his name. It's like Jacob.
Maybe?
Yeah, Jacob.
It'll probably say down below what my name is.
Is that on the sheet?
Yeah.
So Jacob's the one that usually helps Darian over there with all the video and everything, and I give him a hard time because he's awesome.
Our other producer, Darian's the one running things right now.
Yep.
So we're in good hands now, finally.
Well,
So how many questions do we have?
we have a whole bunch.
So people submitted questions to ask us on this testing. We're testing, right?
I think before we do the questions, though,
Yeah.
we should mention that we just got done with Mayor Schmidt.
Yeah, that's when we're doing this.
Yeah.
So if you're watching live, that'll be coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think we should just jump right into the questions.
Let's go.
Go for it.
Let's
Who
go.
cares about inside baseball?
Yeah, let's
so
go.
so I'm going to ask the question to Rhonda.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, so
That's a good idea.
So this came from listener, viewer. I don't know how we refer to our Political Radar
Fans.
Sean Dwayne, if you had won your race and become alderperson and the decision to remove Schmidt came to a vote, how would you vote? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
This is kind of a perfect question given that, you just spoke with him. So,
yeah, sure.
yeah.
Mhm. I have a lot of thoughts on this issue. I would hope to take everything into consideration and be very fair. I would
God, she's a politician.
no.
She should be fired on those grounds alone.
No.
Well, let me tell you about something completely different to what you're actually asking.
Okay. There's a lot to comb over in regards to that.
Was that a hair pun? Comb over.
It was. No, I think so obviously,
You need to pick some good ideas.
okay, I'm going to answer this, right? It's my question. Thank
Yeah,
you.
go ahead.
So there's a lot to talk about. I thought about this for quite a while. So clearly there are missteps. There were, and these are things that were not an accident. I think the current environment in the city council room and, if you're a developer, an investor, you're taking a look at everything that's happening right now in the city, you would probably not be very excited about coming to vet a project. I think that's a pretty fair statement. Honestly, I would have done an offer and compromise. I personally, my personal feeling is I wish he would have resigned, because of the circumstances and the very toxic and hostile environment that's there right now. I think it's not serving us at all. I think it's not good for anybody, including him. I would have to say that I believe that's true. And I think he could probably feel that that's accurate. So I would have done an offer and compromise. You finish your term and then you promise to never run again and be done. You've put your time in. You've worked hard. Yes, I think he pretty much admitted to us during that episode that he doesn't want to leave it to the next person and not sure what's going to happen. I'm sure that's a hard thing to do, but I think you also have to recognize, you have athletes who, they continuously come out of retirement because they just don't know what else to do with themselves. And that's their identity, right?
Yep.
Right. And so I think that's what he's also doing. It's like he really can't see
We've
himself.
never had that happen in Green Bay.
Yeah, never. He can't see himself. He can't see himself in any other position other than what he's done. And I think sometimes that's not a good thing when you really can't see where you really and truly are. I would have done an offer and compromise. I would have asked for him to, commit to not running again. But that's not necessarily what they're going to vote on. It doesn't look good.
The thing that you got to remember, though, as far as I see it, is they wouldn't have had a case against him, really, unless he had cooperated. I don't think they would have been able to convict him had he had not handed over everything and said, this is what I did. So I think that played a big role in it.
They could still gain access to. I mean, the records are there. If you don't cooperate, then that's a statement in itself. I mean, that's like saying no comment is still a comment. So you're going to still. That's going to put some sort of face on the situation. So he didn't have to. I mean, it's always better when you do, obviously, but he didn't. Not to get into the case of that, but. Yeah, I think.
Well, it's not better if you're going to sock him with the top punishment anyway.
Right.
Well, I mean, and he purposely.
It's like telling your kids, "Don't ever lie to me."
But he made.
Right.
He
Don't
made
ever lie to me,
choices.
but I'm going to punish you like crazy when you tell me you did.
But he made decisions to do this. I mean, there are people that he had when you add junior to a name, right? That person doesn't even exist. So.
Yeah.
He
But
made
okay, so
choices like that.
when he did it with the case with someone who doesn't exist, that's one thing. When he did it, with the child's permission, that's another thing. But
Yeah.
both are still, wrong legally.
Sure.
But what we can't can't discredit, and anybody that's been to a meeting, anybody that's watched it happen, anyone that has seen the current existing environment in city politics right now, cannot say that it's going well. They can't say that all of this has
You
created
mean you
a
have
liability.
a problem with the meeting ending at 2:30 in the morning?
And it's not even that. It's just the decorum. It was like a fucking circus in there. There's no
But-
way that anybody can look at that and say that things are going well. And I think he's part of the problem. And I think there are people on the council that are as well. So it's the mixture, right? It's like this is not, it's like a really, toxic, shitty marriage that is really, why are we still together? We need to separate.
But it's worse than that because we can't just have one person leave and fix it.
No, because the next mayor comes in.
And nobody's gonna want that
Someone's
job.
going to have their problem too.
Who's going to want that job?
And I would say to some of these people that are on the council that are definitely, they're like raging on to get rid of him.
And not
Be careful
necessarily
what you-
because of this.
Well, be careful what you wish for,
Right.
because there could be somebody that comes in
Yeah.
as mayor that basically still holds them accountable,
Yes.
still expects them to not be assholes, still expects them to go through their packet and research the issues and show up at council and represent. I mean, that's not going away
Right.
at all. So I
Should
don't
we
know.
rename this live stream Political Radar episode 64?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so that's my statement on that. I think it's a really hard decision. I don't think he's the current developments recently aren't helping him in regards to people being able to say, he's still okay for the job. I think as the days go by, I don't think it looks very good for him personally. So moving
No-
on.
Nobody asked me, so I'm not going to bother sharing my view.
Okay, Elliot, what's your biggest frustration with politics right now? This comes from Joseph Prosser.
Yeah. So, Mr. Joseph Prosser and I have been confiding in each other about some issues that we see, and part of it is Trump, part of it is not, though, and I want to sum it up with what I said to him, on Facebook. I said, "Help me help you," and not me to him, but like us to y'all. We have people that are a little too far on both sides, but especially on the left side right now, that they're so opinionated and everything is terrible, and we can never compromise, and we agree on 90% with these people, and they shun us, and it is horrific.
Are you referring to libertarians being shunned, do you mean? Or do you mean
in general,
conservatives?
but the two of us in particular, because I feel like we're very fair-minded, and I feel like I listen.
Wait, Ellie, did you just say you're fair-minded?
Yeah, I listen. I've had my mind changed on things.
Right.
And I try to, I will be opinionated and I will share my viewpoint. But if it's wrong, I'm not afraid to admit
But what
that.
if your viewpoint is it's going to be fine? That's not really a viewpoint.
I don't think I ever said everything's going to be just
It's
fine.
going to be fine. Just it's going to
yeah.
work itself out.
But
Just
see,
give it
and
some time.
And there you go. That's the sort of problem.
That's not really a viewpoint.
So
That's
that would
like, we
be
don't
my
wanna-
biggest
we don't wanna
frustration
hear
with
about
politics
it.
right now.
Oh, so you're saying Rhonda would be your biggest...
So people like that. People are like, I come from on high. I have all the answers, and you, lay person, you will just listen. And
To be fair, though, I think
That's not
most
fair.
conservatives had that same reaction when Obama got elected, right?
not to this extent. And being in the
you
middle.
really think that?
Yep, I do.
The Tea Party movement?
Yep. So the Tea Party was really more of a libertarian thing. The Tea Party centered around taxes until it went off the rails, and it became something else.
But it went off the
became nothing.
rails because there were
And this is why
the world was going to end.
Yeah. So this is why when I say to my Democrat friends who go on marches, I'm like, you need to be clear what you're marching about, or someone else will co-opt your group, like happened to the Tea Party. Like it was supposed to be about taxes and limited government, and it became like there were people holding up signs, "Don't touch my Medicare." That makes no sense. Yeah. And so people co-opt it and they make it their own thing. And no, all viewpoints are not valid, and
I can assure you that we're not worried about anybody co-opting anything when it comes to human rights.
Yeah.
And that march was absolutely about human rights.
I don't know. You were looking at different reporting than me.
No,
I saw
I wasn't looking
Florida
at reporting.
TV.
I was actually in Madison. So
Yeah, but
I can tell you right now.
Most people were not.
Well, I can tell you right now that
Matters.
it's very clear and it was very obvious that the march was about human rights,
great.
and that no one's going to co-opt and say.
So the Democratic Party,
human rights, yes.
the Democratic Party got to pat themselves on the back and have a good discussion amongst themselves about human rights. Everybody else does not share.
I
that
disagree with you
perception.
on that, Ellie, because
That's
I think
great. You can
I think
disagree. You're part of the problem.
No, I think most liberals are so disillusioned with the Democratic Party anyway. I don't think this is the Democratic Party.
So then it's
No.
a triple fail.
No, and I can tell you this for a fact because I was there. That there
Doesn't
were
matter.
there were Republicans that were there that were friends of mine.
Again,
were
that was
there.
not the narrative.
Well, that's your
who-
interpretation.
yeah,
That's-
and
The
we
media,
can't- we can't help you.
the people. Well, that's why you need to be very crystal clear about what it is. Human rights is not wearing pink hats.
Well,
It's not.
the pink hats
It's
is
not.
because your president says that he can grab my pussy without my permission.
Exactly. So it
And
was
a-
not
and a-
about human rights.
Well, no, of course
Still,
it is.
every time I hear that, it just makes me uncomfortable.
It makes all of us uncomfortable. I mean, anybody reasonable, anyone who's not a card-carrying Republican
that's a women's
makes them
right.
uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah, anything can be a right. It's my right to not have you steal my money out of my bank account. That's so. Yeah, everything's a human right. But
I can
give
grab
me
your
a
balls
break.
right now rather than getting your bank account. That's a lot easier for me to do. Okay? That's way easier for me to do because I'm sitting right here and I can
Inappropriate.
grab your balls.
Terribly inappropriate. Can you censor that?
Let's move on. Okay, the next question.
Actually, the next set of questions are for our host, so I think I should read them off to you.
Sounds
That way you're not reading yourself questions. That's kind of weird.
Thank you. That is a little bit strange.
All right, so your first question comes from Wendy, also known as the Green Bay Sausage. She's chatting away and
Thanks.
I don't
Wendy.
think she's not the Green Bay sausage.
No, she's
No.
not known.
She's
as-
the
she is not
creator.
the Sausage King of Green Bay.
she's
here.
not the Sausage King. No,
She is the creator of.
she's the creator of the
Okay.
Green Bay
Feel
Sausage.
free to correct us, Wendy, but I don't think that's your. I don't think.
Are you the
introduce yourself
Sausage
that
King?
way.
This is the real question we need the answers to.
All right, sorry.
So, who was your favorite guest and why?
What's this top three?
Well,
So,
yeah, but
Let's
choose.
pick one. Yeah.
We can. Why don't we each just pick? Well between the three, between the two of us, we'll throw three people out.
So I wasn't ready for that. Can
I'm
I
going to
think?
pick one.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay.
You can go first, but I got to pick one.
Okay. You're not a host.
Yeah, but he kind of owns this place, so he gets to do what he wants.
So
Okay.
so
Honestly,
let it be known, you're being
And-
squashed by the man.
so and I would probably, can we preface with who our guest, our favorite guest was, because of, and the reasons why. So I look at it sometimes as, are people that are watching and listening, are they going to come away with more information that when they started watching and listening? And that is how I kind of look at it. And I would say Cordero Barkley was amazing. He came into, in a very timely way with Black Lives Matter protests happening, around the country. And it was really great to listen to someone's personal story where, he's very successful in all cases in life. Yet he's a Black man and he went through, this experience and was able to share with us, this is actually true. It's not hearsay. It's not the media. It's not, I'm a man who has lived this. And I thought it was really important to get someone like that on our show and have them express that and educate us, really.
Okay, so you just took mine. Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, he's absolutely, that
I
one
think
sticks out. I mean, we've had so many great guests, but that's one person that actually sticks in my mind because of information, because of it was a personal story. I think personal stories are a big deal. That's mine.
Absolutely, I agree, 100%.
Elliot, what about you?
Okay, nerds. Nick just messaged on the interwebs.
On the interwebs.
So most favoritist. So that is really, really tough because so many of these people that we've had on, I consider to be personal friends. We all kind of travel in the same circles at the very least, right? So like picking a favorite, that's like, picking your favorite kid. So that is difficult. I really enjoyed the one with Cordero. I really enjoyed the one with Brandon, who was dealing with the pipeline and native rights and all that kind of stuff.
That was a big score.
Yeah.
To have him on.
I think he's really, I think he's headed for greatness. I think he has a lot of wood behind the arrow, so to speak.
Especially now that they're rebuilding the pipeline again.
And so I don't know. I mean, favorite is a tough word because it's not. So I don't like the way it's phrased. It says favorite guests, and like that's hard. It's to me, it's more about the favorite topics and the Black Lives Matter thing. Having Cordero and Teresa on, I really like those. So things where I feel like I can learn, those are the things that I'm really looking for. And I like talk. Of course, I like talking to my friends.
You mentioned having to pick between your favorite kids.
Yeah.
And instantly that, I hope that's not offensive, but I think he'd take this as a compliment.
Yeah.
That instantly made me think of Randy.
Yeah.
And
Randy.
yeah.
Randy Scannell.
Oh, Randy Scannell.
Yep.
Because he's like one of my kids.
Yes.
With his tie dye.
And
Well, I mean, we had him on twice, right?
yeah, so good.
So-
We had him on twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I mean, if you're going to talk personal level, I enjoy talking to Randy all the time. I think it's really fascinating, though.
But that's how I feel about a lot of the elders.
Absolutely.
I feel like we're so close.
Right,
Like,
right.
I hate calling those favorites.
And it's like, even if we disagree with their policy positions or whatever,
Yeah.
personally, most of them we really enjoy. The one point I wanted to make is the first few minutes before we record and the few minutes after, it's amazing how well connected you feel to these people and how, you get a sense for how decent they may be. And, some of them you just don't have that understanding until, you see them,
Yeah.
and have that experience.
I will say that I've never felt like anybody left in a worse position for themselves, and I don't feel like I always feel like I understand and appreciate them more across the board.
So are we going to name some more people or
No,
not?
I think
Let's-
Okay.
yeah.
So
That's
the
too
next
hard.
next question.
I do want to say something real quick about that, though.
Yeah.
Noah Reef was an interesting case. He came on twice. The first time, it didn't go as well as he'd like. And-
Noah Reef,
Yeah.
who ran against John Mako.
Right. But I think the experience of being on and, struggling a little really, energized him. And he said, hey, can I come back and do it again? And he did a great job the second time,
It was a night and day difference.
Yeah.
For sure.
So the next question for you guys. Who are your sources for inspiration as hosts? This is also from Wendy.
No, what? Who are your sources of inspiration?
Who's your inspiration?
Who's your inspiration? Who do you
I
aspire?
have some answers, but
Oh,
Like because your
I got
guys'
it.
interview style is very different. I often talk about how Rhonda will ask you a question, she'll ask it you again, and she'll ask you again, but they're all leading to the point. And typically in our episodes, Rhonda will ask the questions first, and then about halfway through is when Elliot will come in, and Elliot will come in with a complete counter question that a lot of times I think the guest just has to stop and go, I never thought of that. And, I think both you have very, very different interview styles. So, where does that come from?
So I think it comes from practice more than anything else. But like when I think about how I can be better and people who just appear to be naturally good at this stuff, there's a guy named Merlin Mann. He does podcasts. I look up to a lot of the local and and maybe even national broadcast people. But one that sticks out in my mind because it's sort of similar type of situation is Alec Baldwin. He has a podcast and it's fantastic. I really like it. So I think he's a great interviewer. He listens to what people are saying, no matter how much he agrees with them, and he is able to interpret and ask good leading questions. I really like that.
and I'm an NPR junkie. and I listen to the radio all the time. It is like seriously my Bible. So that's listening to people being interviewed for years. That's
and there are good interviewers on NPR, to be sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times I've heard Rhonda start a conversation with, I heard something on NPR that was
I
really
love it. I'm so sad that they're dismantling it because it's literally it's a service. It's not a partisan thing.
dismantling.
They are. Yes, absolutely they are. Tell me how they're not.
Oh my God.
Tell me how they're not.
Now, an
Tell me
interesting.
no. Tell me how they're not.
Well, for one thing, it costs almost nothing to produce content. They do need to pay their hosts, and they
What's almost nothing?
uh
What's a number? You must know a number if you can actually say that.
100,000 a year.
That's what it costs.
Absolutely.
Where would we find this
outside
information?
outside of talent?
Where would we find this information?
We have an expert in broadcasting right here. I mean, we put out this podcast.
Is that true?
There's no reason they
Is that a
couldn't
true
do that.
statement?
There's no reason they couldn't cut their costs. No reason.
Tech is expensive.
Yep.
Yeah,
No, I mean, I honestly am asking this because I don't know the number. That's what I'm asking.
They have more staff than they need, which allows them to do some good production, but they have a little fat there. And from a technical standpoint, it's overrated. Like, it doesn't need to be on the radio. Nobody listens to the radio. And by
Okay,
nobody,
I
mean
gotta
small
stop you,
numbers.
Elliot. Come on.
Small numbers.
there you got to let people consume information the way they do, and there is actually
That's fine.
a huge population that still reads newspapers.
There's a lot of people that absolutely cannot afford. They don't have a computer in their home, and they
Right.
can turn on the radio.
There are not
and they
a
can
lot
make-
of these.
and I'm also going to
There
say, I don't know that
Yes,
we.
there are. I can tell you. I can name 10 people.
These are
in my
facts.
life.
You don't get to provide alternate facts.
This live stream is just turning into...
We have like 90% plus penetration, and that's just because people don't want to answer questions.
But
They
how many
all have
people
access.
out there know how to listen to a podcast
Why
on their
would
phone
why would
in
the
the car?
federal government
Right.
no why would the federal government be wanting to remove funding from a source that they don't think is actually reaching enough people? You don't do that. You don't take
and
money out of
NPR
things.
doesn't cost the
Because
federal
it's
government
too
that
much.
much
No,
money.
because they know
It's
it's reaching
representative,
people.
and their budget is too high,
No.
and by the way, they get corporate sponsors. I hear it.
You're not trying to censor something
So does the
because you know it
BBC.
doesn't reach people. You're doing it because you know it's reaching people. That's the
agree.
entire reason they're doing it.
The BBC is one of, if not the most respected news sources out there, and it's government funded by the UK.
It costs nothing to
and
turn
that's
it
groovy.
on.
The UK is an island, so their broadcast costs are small.
Guess what? We're an island too. I mean, anything's an island as long as there's water around it, no matter how big it is.
Okay. We have another question
Yeah.
from Jake Olson.
Jared.
Yeah,
Jake Olson.
we've got a great one here.
Okay.
This actually goes back kind of to your interviewing style. Do you decide ahead of time who will lead the discussion for a
Yes, she
particular-
does. She decides every time.
No, it's very organic. Thank you.
Yeah, and to put a finer point on that,
She sounds like a Republican. Everything's fine. There's no racism.
to put a finer point on it, though, really the interview dictates the who leads, because and I'm sure we'll cover this more later, but part of the design of the show is that we do have differing opinions, but our guests kind of lead us to that. So I think typically, as I said, Rhonda tends to lead at the beginning, Elliot tends to lead at the end, but I've seen cases where that flips too.
I don't like to come in with a script and have too many preconceived notions. I like to do some homework and have some facts, but I try to put myself in the place of whoever's listening or watching.
And I think no matter what we do, and even when people come prepared, it still happens organically.
Absolutely.
It does. We don't we don't ask questions that we wanted to ask. It just, and that's the best thing. It's very conversational, so it happens that way. Okay, next one.
All right, so are you guys ready for the juiciest of juicy questions?
Oh boy.
So we got to thank Wendy for this one again. Thanks, Wendy. What was the most uncomfortable moment?
Oh, I think most of us are
During-
going to agree on this one.
I think we've got some good contenders, but let's hear what you guys have first.
Well, what do you think? I don't.
He doesn't ever feel uncomfortable.
No, Elliot has no shame, no sense of embarrassment, no...
Well, I don't know. They just talked about grabbing me. And by the way, this is the same person who just complained about that yesterday.
I'm using in context of it's not okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so most uncomfortable moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was uncomfortable, but it was kind of caught me off guard. It was when we had Eric Wimberger, who ran against Dave Hansen for state senate, Wisconsin State Senate, and we were talking about parenting, and he was very much saying how he wanted, it's always better to have two parents, no matter what the situation is. There's two parents that's the ideal situation for parenting. Mm-hmm. And I said, really? I said, what about in the case of two lesbians? And his answer was, whatever.
I think it was.
I think that was the coolest moment because.
But was that uncomfortable?
No, I'm not saying it's uncomfortable because, again, it was more like, oh, I don't really know what that means, and I don't even know where to segue from that. So it stopped me in my tracks, which doesn't happen very often. So for me, that's uncomfortable.
There are very few times we have that awkward pause.
Right, it was awkward.
And that does not happen too often.
So uncomfortable, I'm sure if you looked it up, you would also see awkward listed as.
Uncomfortable. I think the whole Chris Wary, Debbie Jakes thing, that was uncomfortable because I know them both. I like them both. That's super hard because I feel like it's like two friends are having an issue, and you're in between, and you're like, oh, please.
And Chris was very genuine when he was here, and he hung out quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know I razz him a lot, but I mean, I've always liked him. So that was hard. I don't like that stuff happening.
So for me, for this question,
Yeah.
This was with the episode with Frank Lassay.
Yeah.
That's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the episode was going pretty normal, not too crazy. And then he very casually let a comment slip, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's something about how, we're always going to have more gun violence when it's in the inner cities or when colored folks are involved.
Yeah.
I don't think that was his exact words, though.
It was pretty close to that.
Well, colored folks, colored people, he did say that.
Yeah,
But-
he did. But
And
I don't know in what context.
And we did talk about that afterwards.
No, in what
I mean,
context would that ever be okay? In 2017. In what context?
hey, we just got the
ever?
awkward silence there.
look at that.
I'm asking.
it's not okay.
Right. So it's awkward. It's uncomfortable.
And it was
And it's
It was
unbelievable.
uncomfortable. I was
beyond
sitting
that.
behind our production
Yeah.
desk, and
So-
my jaw literally dropped.
uncomfortable. I wasn't uncomfortable with that only because I know what he was trying to say, and it was not really that. He's not a super crazy racist guy, but he hangs with Republicans. And
Who
they tend to lean that
says
way.
colored people
I did not
in
get that vibe
2017?
either, but
Well, it was 2016. Who
that's
says
not
that?
a moment where that's not a moment someone would be proud of.
So how are you supposed to refer to people?
Not like that. Oh, there's many ways.
Well,
There's
we have a
so
place-
many ways you could say that.
we-
You don't say that.
We have an organization called the NAACP.
Mm-hmm.
What does it stand for?
Not colored people.
What does it stand for?
The National Association for Advancement of Colored Peoples.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure.
Would you say colored people?
I don't say that. But
Why don't you say
but-
that? But you don't say it because it's not okay.
Because-
It's not.
you know what?
It's not okay. It's not okay.
I like to be as transparent with my language as possible. So I like to be as clear and concise as possible.
Right.
So, I mean, I get that. I know why you guys are
That's
saying
not a
that.
line to blur. I'm sorry. Mm-mm.
But it is
that.
confusing because if you say people of color,
That's fine.
that's fine. But if
Yeah.
you say
That's
colored people-
exactly what it is.
Right.
It's not colored people.
but it is.
That's
That shows ignorance. You're not educated.
I think it shows
You're-
ignorance getting up in arms over the flipping of
No.
an adjective.
It's insensitive. It's insensitive. But this is also a guy who stood in a roundabout with a big red T-shirt and said, "Please vote for me." So we can't expect a lot, right?
I don't
What's
know.
wrong with that?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm sorry. Let's go to the next
Can
one.
we just use minorities, please?
Okay.
That's a yeah.
But that's not even going to be that's not even going to be a factual term.
No,
in
'cause-
another
Well,
few
no.
years.
Yeah.
No. White people will be part of the minority
Right.
because, everything's
will
getting
be
more mixed.
Everyone will be a minority, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
And that'll be a good thing.
And I
And
think
criminals are not allowed at City Hall.
and I think getting up in arms about that just belittles actual issues that people of color run into.
That
you know?
sounds
driving,
so much better.
Driving while
Colored
black
people.
is a thing.
I think
Absolutely.
everybody
You know?
thinks to Archie Bunker when they hear you say colored people. That's the problem.
What year was that a thing?
But that is the problem.
Old. You're old.
Yeah.
I'm old, but I'm never going to say colored people in a context where I'm serious. Moving on.
I wouldn't actually say people of color most of the time either. Like that's just awkward to me.
Right.
I like to be more descriptive. Like what am I saying and why?
So, okay, Dan, how did you come up with the idea and format for the show?
Oh boy.
Blame Elliot.
He was wasted.
This is actually
I was 2 whiskey bottles into the evening.
Yeah. This is actually something that I had planned on doing for years, and just slowly built the process. And I didn't have the right people in mind. And Elliot and I have known each other for 20 years.
They're old.
I haven't known anybody for 20 years. I'm only 27.
Oh boy, I'm not gonna touch that.
I'll be 27 soon.
And Elliot was someone that I always thought of in the back of my mind. Hey, it'd be really interesting. And Elliot was doing his Ideas by Elliot podcast and had an idea of doing a presidential debate kind of thing,
Which was a blast.
which was a blast. And I was one of the panelists, and that's where I met Rhonda. And within about 5 minutes of seeing the interaction between Rhonda and Elliot, I said, "There's my host." So I went back to my team here, Jacob, and at the time, and said, "Hey, I've got this idea. Here's my concept." And Jacob thought it was great, and I said, "All right, well, I'm going to ask Rhonda and Elliot if they'll do it." And Elliot was like, "Of course." And Rhonda was like, "Wait,
what?
You mean I get to sit here and talk about politics?"
Everything I think about all day, I get to talk about it.
Right.
Yay.
And
which leads us into what is your biggest regret?
the only difficulty that I have is we cover a lot of local topics, we cover a lot of state topics, and we cover federal topics. And it's really hard sometimes to give them all their exposure, it's hard because a lot of times we get really stuck on city stuff because obviously we know a lot of that and we know the people, but I really want to keep broadening and bringing in more of an audience and, covering a lot of topics.
Well, it does help that the national scene's quite a hot mess, so there's a lot more to talk about these days.
Right. And I think, when we first got started, it was hard for us to get, the big name guest a lot of times because obviously a news show.
Yeah.
And we'd always have to have that conversation of, what's a podcast? And, when we finally, went to video and went to YouTube and, just kind of said, it's a show.
Yeah.
It made it a lot easier.
And, we actually have people coming on the show now who've actually seen an episode of Political Radar.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's more the case than not. Yeah.
Right. And, it's something that I'm sure many of our listeners know. It's completely funded, by us. We do it because we think it's a great service for the community, and we're going to keep doing that. I truly don't have any regrets. I really enjoy it. I enjoy seeing Rhonda and Elliot and their interaction with the guest every week or 2 times a week. I don't have any regrets. It's a great show. I think it really deserves more attention.
So if you had a second pick, not a third and fourth, but if you had a second pick
For hosts?
Well, I mean,
To replace Elliot.
Oh.
It's funny. Every time Elliot is on vacation or whatever, when we have a guest host, Elliot always says, "Oh, great, I'm fired now."
well, I think Brian Danziger was amazing.
Yeah. Brian was
We had
incredible.
Adam on, he was great.
Adam was great. I really like Mark Becker as well, and he would be someone that I would not mind. I like the fact that he's got his views, but he's very open and listens to other people.
Yeah.
To me, the characteristics I was looking for is someone who's very opinionated, but will listen to other people's views. And I don't expect them to be swayed by them views necessarily, but it was really important that we had an open dialogue. And one of the fun things that we dealt with right off the bat is people would say, "Well, you're too liberal, you're too conservative, you're too libertarian." It was like one episode we get told, "Oh, you guys are so liberal." Next episode, "Oh, you guys are so conservative." Next episode, "Oh, you guys are so libertarian." Okay, we've done our job.
I mean, that's what I want, and I tend to be the most argumentative with the people I agree with because I know
Absolutely.
the holes in what they're saying, and I try not to be too mean to people who disagree with me because I want them to be able to get their views out.
Going back to uncomfortable moments for me, it was when Elliot started talking about socialized education.
Yeah.
And his very different views, and it's funny because like Elliot and I agree on some things. Like I think with technology, education needs to change.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we can't offer classes on YouTube or some medium like that, and not require that 30 students go in a classroom with a teacher who's worn out. But
you know what, though? I have an adjunct to that. Just the other night, they were debating on the getting permanent restroom facilities installed at Red Smith.
right.
And it turns out that they were supposed to be able to use the restrooms in the school. We have these public buildings just sitting there not being utilized by the public. I have a big problem with that. I do have a big problem with that.
What's your problem?
That we think we have to, even though there's been zero incidents of crazy people just walking into a school that are not affiliated with the school, we have all these safety
Elliot, have
concerns.
you ever been in a school?
Nonsense. Yes, and I've been treated like a criminal, and I'm not a criminal.
We actually
I'm
don't.
not a criminal.
We don't have zero. We have people that have entered schools and done destructive
Right, but
things.
those
No.
people were affiliated, is what
Yeah.
you're saying. Because
Most of the time, they're students, so they would get in anyway.
right,
Yeah, so like that, I have a huge problem with the security
Well,
lockdown.
you can't
It's
walk into
terrible.
school right now because
I don't have a problem with the security lockdown.
It's terrible.
My problem is
We don't have that at City Hall.
Well, I don't have a problem.
It's ridiculous.
There aren't
It's
children.
ridiculous.
There aren't children sitting in class.
Yeah, so we're going to treat children. We're going to put them into this special area.
God, I hope so.
So you don't want your child to be exposed to the world as it is.
Trust me, the world is.
I think that's
No,
horrific.
It's not about exposing them. It's about.
We've had
being
this
realistic.
debate before, I'm sure.
And an
Yeah.
interesting
Little bit,
tidbit
yeah.
that
Yes.
a lot of our audience may know. Rhonda, Elliot, and I all have a child right around the same age, so
Yeah.
we're all kind of dealing with that same.
I mean,
stage
you
of
could go to a
parenting.
private school if you want to and put your child into that school. I'm pretty sure that's not locked down.
I bet you they are.
But that's not really
No,
the
they're
point.
that's not. They're no. They're
They generally are not.
No,
And
they're not.
And that's that's
but if it's
kind
a
of my
problem-
point. Like
it's a-
those could be locked down. These are public buildings.
But you can get in there if you want to.
facilities.
You can get in there if you want to.
So we've got our list here, but I do actually
going.
want to bring up one question from our chat that's been going on with some great comments in it.
Thanks, guys.
Specifically for you, because this is something I don't think we've ever addressed on the show.
Which you?
For Dan. This was asked by Christian. He's actually someone who works here, and he's one of our production staff
Hi,
members.
Christian.
Hi,
Hi,
Christian.
He wants to know where the name Political Radar came from.
That's kind of funny. I purchased a company that ran a website called Political Radar. It was a discussion group. So, for those of us older people, it was a discussion forum on politics, and this was probably about 10 years ago. And it was toxic. Once I bought it and tried to run it, I just could not stand how poorly the conversations were. So after doing that for probably about 2 years, I shut it down. And I kept the name, for this purpose later.
This is take two.
This is technically take two. Political Radar actually was called The Political Radar initially, and it was a public discussion forum, very focused on national topics only. And, I acquired it from a third party, and it was just toxic. The people who posted on it were just the most extreme of the extreme. So I ended up shutting it down and just kind of mothballing the name for years. So it wasn't a creation, so to speak, as it was an acquisition of the name.
Okay.
Gee, people being extreme and hateful on the internet?
I have to say, though, I think a lot of that experience kind of brought me to what I wanted out of it. I just did not want that kind of negativity.
Any other questions are coming from the chat?
Not
Jacob?
at this moment. Let's
Okay.
continue on.
Okay.
So we have production questions. You want to take one, and then I'll take one?
Sure. How many cameras are used in the production of Political Radar?
We do a 3-camera setup for most episodes, although we now have added a 4th camera now, which is what we're using today.
For our streaming, so you can get us all in shot.
Right.
Hi, camera number
Hi,
4.
camera. Now, what's interesting, we're going to be doing a tour of the studio on our on one of our other YouTube channels this week. So once that's posted, everyone can kind of see the equipment we have here. I love when guests walk into the studio for the first time and their eyes just pop out of their head. They're like, wow. I'm very proud of the studio.
And for
quite a setup.
anyone who's curious, our cameras, one of them is not, but the majority of them are Canon HFG 40s.
Yes.
For all you tech junkies
Yeah.
out
Yep.
there.
One's a G30.
So if NPR wants to learn how to cut their costs, they should give you a call. All right.
We'll trade studios with NPR.
How much editing is actually done? I think that's a question I'd like to know.
Initially, I did all the video editing for the show, and I didn't cut anything. There was nothing that was taken out. That job now falls on Darian, and he kind of takes the same philosophy. We almost never cut anything out. If a guest asks us to take something out, or maybe they have a point where they have a coughing fit or something, we might cut that out. But substance never gets edited out unless
I don't
there's
think
a real
anybody's really ever asked for anything to be taken out.
When we were audio only, we had a few people who asked us to take something out, but since we've gone to video, no one's actually asked, and we almost never cut something out.
We've occasionally edited things out if it was just something that was repeated.
Sure.
There were once or twice where, sometimes people get in a loop and they say the same thing a couple of times over because they can't think of what to say. And
Right.
we've occasionally edited something like that out, but there's very little editing that goes in.
Yeah.
And so Wendy had a follow-up on that. What software do you actually use for the editing?
We are ingrained firmly into Adobe.
Yes, we use Adobe products for almost everything.
Okay, I actually forgot this. People sent me questions. I reposted that we were doing
then
the
I'll
live
ask
feed.
another one.
Yeah, go
Who
ahead.
do you like more?
Who do I like more?
Between our hosts here.
Yeah, that comes from Joseph Prosser.
Oh, really?
So
So we all like Rhonda. Yeah. Rhonda's a really likable person.
Yeah.
And with
Aw,
Elliot,
thanks.
this is
with Elliot, it's
really people who know her,
I think
or people
we'll
who
all
don't know
agree
her.
it's a love-hate relationship with Elliot.
Elliot and I have
That's
an
just
interesting
you.
history, though, because we've known each other for so long, and we have, like this parallel life where we sit there and compare like our stages in life and how similar it was. So I think Elliot and I kind of had a quick uptake on working together, whereas Rhonda and I didn't know each other before this, so I had to really get to understand.
You
how
get
she
the
worked.
beginner's mind, and you learn to empathize better.
Right.
You know what you hate about me already.
Absolutely, and but no, I can't say that there's
Not fair.
There's no favorite. I mean,
My favorite is anybody but Jared.
and
All right, let's.
so our producer
we're
here
getting
is
corny.
actually my son, so
Are we out
that
of time?
relationship's always
No.
fun too.
Oh.
So
We've got some other questions.
Oh.
yeah,
Okay, so can we take a question? I would like someone to discuss in some length and with some insight how and why people can serve on city council and county board simultaneously. If not, only is likely that they can't serve both to the level in which each deserves, but also seems like a conflict of priority at any given time.
It's a great
and
question.
that is a great question, and I think especially when you look at an agenda that we just had at the city council level that went till 2 a.m, and even if many meetings go long. There's a lot to look at. The last time people probably thought it was fine to serve on county and city, we weren't the size of the city that we are. We don't have the amount of issues that we have. We're a very different city than we were, when this was probably first decided. So I don't understand how anyone
Well, it used
can
to
do it
be
right.
that you were both automatically.
right.
Yeah, but at this point, I
Like
don't
it was
understand
one
how
ballot.
that's okay. There's two very different issues.
Well, that's why God separated.
Tables. Right.
I mean, so
it's not,
that was a part of the discussion that some people they have jobs. I mean, a lot of these people that serve on both boards they have outside employment, so they only have so much time. So
And then that's not fair to the issues. It's not fair to the representation. It's not fair.
My biggest
to
concern
any
is
of
who
it.
do you serve, and
Right.
there are a lot of cases where
Where you get lazy.
what's important to the county
yeah,
is not what's important to the city and what's beneficial. I'm uncomfortable with that dual representation in many cases. And, number one, I don't know if you can do both jobs well unless you're, not doing any other job. But number two, when there is conflict, who do you represent?
yeah. Well, I mean, so they even had that same discussion about the city attorney, right? Who do you represent?
Right.
Yeah, and especially on things like the railroad museum that came hand in hand for some money from the Packer rebate thing. They're not in the city limits of Green Bay. They're in Ashwaubenon, and we already give them free rent, and they came for more money. And I I feel like that should have been a county issue. And now thinking about this, I want to see how that vote came through. You know.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hate to do it, but I'm going to have to bring up Chris Wary in the pool.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
But why isn't the county involved in that process?
Especially when there were, Corey Campbell, Tom Siebert, people that serve at the county level were very vocal and very, they're very supportive of this proposal. Yet the county and the proposal really was to serve the county.
Right.
Why weren't they at the table?
And
that's all. We
you
don't
know
have to
what?
talk about
And I
that
think
pool
we're
ever.
all in favor of the freaking pool, but it was a matter of how it was getting paid for and by how much.
I
Okay,
want
so
pool.
Can I ask a question? So then, why? How can we change this? Who actually makes that decision? Does it have to
They
be
do.
voted on? Okay,
Yeah.
so think about it. So I'm collecting 2 paychecks, right? County,
Yep.
city. Why would I be incentivized to ever make this happen?
Well,
And-
now there is a relative split, so we really don't have that many that are on both. So I think we could get that done.
But when you look at,
I don't know legally though.
and
If
is
you
it
could
is it
separate.
county or is it city that decides that? I mean, like, who's going to decide that?
Oh,
Right.
so forbidding them from doing it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be legal.
I think we might have to redefine the job description of.
I think we should
of,
absolutely visit that.
Yeah.
I think if we redefine the job description of an alderperson, they wouldn't be able to do both.
Right.
You know, you can't be president of the United States and in Congress at the same time. You know, I mean,
Okay, so we have another question. Who are the
point.
up and coming leaders in the community? We have tired faces and ideas phasing out right now. Both Dems and the Republicans need to restock their bench locally and at the state level. Of course, we know that local politics is nonpartisan, but the point is, who are the up and coming leaders in the community? And I think that's part of the problem of the current leadership and the current council and county board. They're people that have been there for a while. They're a little older. They're it's a little icy about new, right, and change. And if you think about it, even in the last 3 years, there's been a ton of very young, active, energized people doing really great things in the community. And I think these people are coming on board. The Live 54218 people, the Bicycle Collective. There's a lot of voices that are becoming stronger, and they've been at meetings, they've done,
but they don't
things.
want to run themselves because they see
They don't want to run
what it's like.
themselves.
Right,
but,
absolutely.
But
That's
here's
the
the thing,
problem.
though. What I think what we need to do is we need to encourage and empower these people to be there. That's the point. It's like we wear these people down because of this, but I don't believe that these people
But
out there are that.
other than
weak.
you, really, who wants to be on city council?
I think there's plenty of people that would. But
I don't want to be.
But why?
I would
but
not.
Can I say something? Can I say something? Why don't we stop saying that? Why don't we start empowering them instead of?
Oh, I
saying
agree
statements
with
that-
you.
but
I just wish
saying those
that
statements
there was an
doesn't
incentive to do it.
But I always thought that was a really strange question to be asked, and that's a theme, that's a voice, that noise is out there. Let's stop doing that, and let's say,
Like, why would you want to do that?
right?
A serious
But
question.
it's a serious question, Rhonda.
Do we
why
have
would
to-
hold on? Why would you want to do it?
Yeah.
we have to-
I'm asking. It's a serious question. Why would you want to? Because you ran. What did you want? I mean, why would anyone want to do that?
Because you can see how quickly you can affect change right in your community, in your everyday life. It's
But you
so
also
easy.
get a whole bunch of knives stabbed in your back.
For people that
And a
don't
lot of
really,
people-
the people that don't really have anything other than that's what their purpose is in life, and I know this, so it doesn't
And
matter.
so those are the
I-
kinds of people that are attracted to that.
I think we need to bribe people to run. Hey guys, if you are on the city council, you get free season tickets to the Packers.
So I think the question though is
what was the actual question?
The question is really,
Who are the
the
young
upcoming
leaders?
leaders? And you don't necessarily have to be in government office to be a leader,
No,
right?
you can be the
you have
producer of a
ideas, and
podcast.
this is the difference, and this is something you see happening right now in the community. You can see a council of people, and I'm not naming all of them as this is what is going on, but there are people that sit there and just collect a paycheck. They don't have ideas, they don't have vision, they don't have any of these things. There are people in the community who actually lead every single day who aren't collecting the government paycheck. And they're out there. They really
you know
are.
what? I'm going to add that I would say none of the people that are on city council that have appeared on political radar fall into that camp. So that narrows things down a little bit. And I think that is just indicative of how some people are disengaged from the community. So in terms of who we see as leaders, though, I think we had some of them on. I think Cordero, he is a leader. Brandon Lee Stevens, I think is his name, a leader. And
Matt Biro is a leader. I think he's brought so much attention to public art and how important it is, and that is so important because his ability to make sure that we understand how critical that is bringing people, into the community. They want to live here. They want to invest here. People that actually, developers that see that, wow, Green Bay actually finally embraces public art, right? They're able to do this. And that sometimes can be a deal breaker for whether I want to live there or I want to invest there or any of those things.
And
I love what
I think
he's
we have
done.
there's a danger
Matt Biro.
where I don't think I think of my friends as being leaders sometimes, but Wendy's a leader.
Absolutely.
Like making local politics fun and approachable. Like I can't say how important that is enough.
Absolutely. I think, what Wendy's doing of just bringing stuff to light and doing it with humor, but making the points visible is important.
Pools.
Yeah, pools. I want pool.
I love that.
And you know what? So does he.
Yeah.
Chris Weary loves it too. So what else we got? Any other questions?
Looking through.
Got places to go,
Yeah, I
people to
know.
see,
I know.
lunch to eat.
Why don't we take some, while you're looking, why don't we take some more production questions?
Okay.
Do you guys enjoy politics, or are you just happy to have a job?
The production team here has to deal with me on a daily basis.
Yeah, so I'm asking them. Keep your mouth shut.
So when it comes to politics, it would be really nice to have Darian on here to answer this question as well, because he and I are very different when it comes to politics.
Right.
Though
Darian
we do have
has a thoughtful mind.
I like politics. It's not my passion. I love nerd stuff too much to call it my passion.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the discussions we have. I am decently active in our own community, and I read every post. I don't post that often, but I read everything. I
a
like
lurker.
politics. I'm a big time lurker.
He is a big time lurker.
Voyeur.
Yeah. What's nice about it though is he'll call me and say, "Hey, did you see this? Did you see that?" So
Yeah, the other day, I'm like, we were working on stuff for the studio, setting up for this live stream, and I was bored, so I'm like, what do you think about Betsy DeVos? Darian, on the other hand, he's much more passive when it comes to politics, unless it's that one issue that grinds his gears. On average, I'm more politically active than he is, but there are one or two issues that he just gets filled with passion for and will not shut up about.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
And
He's laughing over there in the corner. I can
You
hear
got
him.
another one?
Yeah, I do. I have another one.
Real quick, I want to add to that.
Yeah.
I don't care what you
I
have to
don't.
say.
You know what? The executive producer is going to answer this question.
I have a microphone and you do not.
No, I mean, I love politics, but what I really love is the observation of human behavior and how people relate their political views to their circle of friends. To me, that's fascinating. Just to see, the friends who have such opposite reactions to things and how they coexist, it fascinates me.
I have really good friends who tolerate a lot out of me.
We all
that wasn't directed directly at me? All right, what do we got?
Okay, so
I see a whole bunch.
Well, some of it's your comments of discussion on it. So it says, it seems to me that we can't give tax dollars away fast enough for a private entity to build a stadium and keep all the profit, bullfrogs. But God forbid if kids need a pool. So I think what he's, and this goes back to TIF, right? Talking about all of that, and we've gone around about that. I would like to know, though, we all want garbage picked up. We want the streets plowed. We want nice places. We want to go to. We want quality of life is important. That's why you live in a city, right? That's why you live
But the basics are the most
4
important.
feet away from someone else. That's why you live in the city and you don't live in the suburbs. When would it be accepted, as I guess, in regards to being able to pay more in taxes for investing? I always think of it as more of an investment, right? We talk about infrastructure. We want all these things, but we don't want to pay for it.
But see, those are the things we're supposed to invest in. We're supposed to have storm sewers that work. We're supposed to not have lead pipes. We're supposed to have streets that don't have potholes. So you build those things, people don't get pissed off living in Green Bay.
You have to have development, otherweise how are you going to have tax base? I mean, you do need to have that so you don't have to raise taxes.
But there are 2 points I want to make, and you guys got to give me a chance here because you get to do this every week. All right, so I find the pool versus stadium thing to be a false equivalency.
It is.
Okay?
Yeah.
A pool gets used by a small group of people for a small amount of time. A stadium gets used by a much larger group of people a small amount of time. Now, if that stadium includes additional development
I don't
around
think the
it,
numbers are that much different.
I disagree. How many people are at a Bullfrogs game on a typical game?
Not that many.
Plus, there's the other stuff.
My understanding is that they get about 1,500 a game.
And a lot of those are free tickets, but yeah.
Yeah, but they want to do a lot of other things with that
Right, and
proposal.
if the development-
you're talking about the
If
shipyard
the development has
proposal.
other things attached to it and it brings economic growth to an area that really needs it, I can support that. But the pool didn't have those components. And they said, okay, well, we got a community room. That's not going to bring people there.
No, I mean, it's definitely a false equivalency.
Right.
I mean, they're completely opposite.
And what really frustrated me is when they said, well, it's going to be $4 a person a year. So it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Okay, so how many $4 can we keep adding on?
Yep.
And when does that stop?
I think that's my question.
Welcome
though.
to the libertarian side of the table.
But
Yeah,
no, at
we
some
We have a
point,
big tent.
no, at some point, everything else increases, right, in price. I mean, I'm paying more for services outside of the city. I'm paying more to even have my contact,
Adjusted for inflation,
subscription. Right. I mean,
certain things go up in price, certain things go down in price.
but I mean, at some point, if you
So-
want your city to thrive and grow, you're going to have to invest in it. People will have to pay more in taxes.
I'll tell you what, I don't
And
want a nickel go into any
but
of
I
these
agree with you on that.
improvements until they, as part of every conversation, say, okay, 10 years when the cars are driving themselves, what needs to be different?
Because it's going to
about
happen.
this?
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I agree with you,
and they
Rhonda, that
never
you have
talk
to
about
invest, but you also have to offset that by doing things that generate revenue then.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just keep adding to the tax bill of people because people are not making more money.
Right.
The living wage in Green Bay is actually much lower than most communities, and the growth of how much people make is not growing that fast.
But when you start a business, you clearly invest in. I mean, you don't start making money sometimes till a few years later.
If you start a business, you don't make money for years.
right.
You might never
You
make
might
money.
never.
But I
make
mean,
money.
why is it that different? Why is that okay? But invest
when you're
in the city
asking
and
when you're asking a population to keep adding on,
You're talking to a guy, he didn't get public funds
Right.
for his business, so why should some businesses get that and some don't? Like,
Right.
that's crazy. To me.
I'm
this
actually referring more to, and I'm not even talking necessarily about those two proposals. It's just in
Right.
general, like when are we going to, because
I
at some
think it's
point the taxes are
great.
going to have to be raised, and it's going to have to happen.
but it wouldn't have to be raised
will.
if you're doing smart development and things like the Be Local group supported, where you're building new revenue streams. The problem with Green Bay is that the suburbs are getting all that revenue. We keep seeing new developments in the suburbs, not in Green Bay, and I think part of that is because as a potential developer, I would run from the hills.
So would it help if the county and the city kind of collaborated more on things?
On some things, but
Right.
I mean, part of the reason you go to the suburbs is because that's where the people with the money are.
That's part of it, but the other part is
I think that's changing, though. I think
It
that's
is.
different.
Yeah.
I think
I
don't
think that's part
that's
of it. But if
true.
you have static from city council and you have to go through so many hoops, we had a 3-hour argument about a driveway.
Yeah, that was bullshit.
What developer in their right mind is going to want to do that? I can move, a block over and get everything I want.
Yeah, and there was a net decrease in driveways, by the way.
Right. I mean, there's a definite problem with the way that we embrace, and I'm not saying that we financially have to always embrace developers. The developers are going to ask for whatever
No,
they
but
can get.
you know what? Don't stand in the way of it.
Right.
And that was a question that I wanted to ask, but we ran out of time to the mayor that was asked, what are we doing to help small businesses get off their feet in this town? And we stand in the way.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been in Green Bay running companies for almost 20 years. There's a lot of work there.
maybe
Did anyone from the city ever come by and say, what can we do for you?
maybe we need different leadership. Maybe we need more real progressive leadership.
Wow.
Now, going back to the developer thing, we had Garrett on.
No, I want someone to respond to that. What
Answer my question,
I don't
counselor.
have a no. I want to know. Tell me that that's not. We have the same complaints for the same. The years. They're kind of the same complaints. Maybe it's a change in leadership is what we need.
We
Careful
need,
what you wish for.
Yeah, we need some. We need some changes. I'm not going to say that one person being gone is going to change it.
or even 5,
Or even
Just who you
5.
can replace them with.
How do you know that though?
We don't. and
We
that's
don't,
the
but that's why we have elections.
thing.
But we have elections where 12 people show up and vote.
But I think we kind of have an illustrative effect. I mean, if you look at the 2 years that Zima was not on council, and Ned Dorf was there, and
It was very different.
yeah, it was a very different process, and a lot of the projects that happened downtown had their genesis in that time. You know, I think there's definitely a thing where developers just don't want to bother.
So you want to have an all-Dorf council.
It'd be interesting because Ned would find some way to bring birds into it.
Birds.
Birds.
Vegan birds.
Speaking of favorite guests, Ned was one of my favorites.
Oh, I love him.
He's so entertaining. It just
He was our first guest on video.
yeah.
That's
yeah.
right.
That's the kind of people I'd love to see more in
Yeah.
in
He's a
the
leader.
public.
All right, do we want to allow open carry, or do you allow open carry in the studio?
Well, that's actually not true. I remember having a beer very, very clearly.
I have no problem with that. But no, we do not allow weapons here in the studio.
With
And
an exception. If you recall, there was one
That's
time
right.
where there were weapons in this room.
Absolutely.
When we had Chief Smith.
Oh, absolutely. And what was funny about that, Chief Smith and one of the other officers.
I mean, a
were-
person actually trained
Yeah.
to use a weapon?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
By the
they were
government.
walking down the hall with Rhonda, so they were on either side. Rhonda was in the middle, and it just looked so funny. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Rhonda, what'd you do?
Yeah, we should have put cuffs on her. We could have. This
What
all
did
could have
you
been.
say?
We could have fixed it. We keep talking. Hey, if we get rid of some people, we have some turnover.
So are
some
we-
new
But
leadership.
that question, I think, is leading to the point of the open carry at City Council,
Yeah.
which I am absolutely not for. And here's my reason. First of all, you know what? I'm not against the Second Amendment, and everyone can have their guns and all, but
I love everybody says it like we need to coddle it. Oh,
Right.
Second Amendment.
Second
well,
Amendment.
it's written there for a reason.
I know, but it's like it's like
We can
it's like
debate
you
that
can't-
for
like
hours.
You can't have any sort of stance on that.
But every
you have to be
right has
apologetic.
limitations, right?
Except for the ones we wrote down.
No, they all have limitations. You cannot.
You
go
have freedom of speech,
Yep.
but
Yep.
you'll still get arrested if you say you're going to kill the president.
or you still have cases of libel and all that stuff. But
Well, you're free to say it. You're not arrested for the saying. You're not arrested for. You shouldn't be arrested.
that's not
for
true. If you are in a
having
theater
gun.
and you say
But
fire,
if I shoot you with my gun,
Right.
that is the limitation. Yeah, that's the limitation. Don't shoot people.
Okay, city council.
but no,
council,
I'm
people playing.
I think
guns.
it's an intimidation tactic a lot of times,
Absolutely.
and I'm not for that.
but also, have you seen how intense those debates
So-
can get?
Absolutely.
Well, we used to have people shoot people, and that's how you get some turnover. And
Yeah, what we need is duels. We need duels.
No, we
with
don't.
people.
No.
we need to put our
No,
metal
I-
penises
Alexander
away.
Hamilton.
You know what?
Style.
You know the people who would shoot each other, and sounds like you want to get rid of them anyway. This sounds like a win-win.
I'm not joking about that.
No, but
I'm
no.
not either.
The simple answer is it is a preference of this company and of myself to not allow weapons. With the exception, obviously, of police officers. But no,
Which is totally fine. That's where
that's
the
our
where the
policy.
rules should happen. Yeah.
right.
Good. Is that it? Are we done?
Do we have any others on the list that were missed?
Oh, is there a second page? Oh,
Any more chat questions?
I have a question that I'm going to pose to the host.
Oh, that's a good one.
I want to know when I first brought this idea to you, and now that we're 60 plus episodes in, is it anything like you thought it would be?
Yeah. It's
Good
exactly,
answer. Good answer.
It's exactly what I thought it would be. I thought we would, have a little rocky start. I mean, and I feel like we actually started better than I thought we ever would, and it's gotten better. So
I'm going to let you finish that, Rhonda, with that question, but then I want to bring up a quick point.
No, I kind of figured we could probably do something pretty cool. Sure.
Yep. Does everyone remember the episode we lost?
No.
I do.
So I was going to ask that in the production team question.
So we did an episode which was just the three of us.
Yeah.
And it was really, really good. I really liked it.
You were talking about guns.
We talked about inner city. We talked about, all kinds of topics. And, we left, and the production team comes to me and says, we got a problem. There's no audio. So we lost the whole episode.
Not blaming anyone here.
And you know what? If we could have put it out with no audio, that would have been our highest
That's
rated
a teachable
episode.
moment.
No, the
So.
problem that was pre-video.
Doesn't matter.
So what is-
You download a 5 meg MP3 with nothing.
And
White
so
noise.
we actually had the discussion, and we're like, well, should we try and reproduce it? And I'm like, but it was so good, I don't think we could
Like
get
catching
it.
lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. So that was the lost political radar episode. Yeah.
And that was really early on. That would have been like episode 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes those things have to happen so you don't do it again.
Right.
You know what? Nobody asked about our dream guest.
Yeah, who's your dream guest then? Throw your own questions your own way.
So I really,
Do you want to know who mine is?
yeah, who?
Governor Walker.
I think he'd be great, and I think he'd be on. He comes to Green Bay quite a bit. And I
He only goes into areas where people have been vetted and okay, where's your Republican card? Okay,
I'll go
you're
get
okay.
one. I'll
you
go
can
get one.
you can come in the room.
they'll let me back in.
There's no media there, right? Okay, no.
It turns out they let anybody in.
No, he's so open. He's so open to listening to just everyone. Please,
No, but
he's not.
I think we can get him on.
Well,
Okay,
you'd probably have
so
to make
audience,
sure that
start-
everybody in the room
we
is
were-
a Republican.
Start a
were-
campaign to get him on.
We were super close to having Jill Stein on.
Yes.
I have to tell you, we were so close. We were emailing back and forth with other people, and then
And this was during the campaign.
Absolutely.
but then it became clear that people were actually going to start paying attention to the third parties because the two major parties
Yeah,
were so
if
terrible.
we had proposed having her on maybe a week or two at a time,
if we would have got
we
it,
would've-
she would have been on. Yeah.
But
She might have been on by Skype, but
she's
she would
not
have
a
been
dream guest, though, right?
No, she's not a dream guest,
a
but
ma-
she would have
at
been
the
fascinating.
time,
a major party presidential candidate. That's a dream.
doesn't have
guest.
to be her.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be her, but but I don't care. I mean,
We all know you want Gary Johnson. Come on.
I would have loved
If
yeah.
Gary Johnson would have
They
done
were
the show,
booked.
I would have done flips. Honestly, I mean, there's just so much that
he's
I would.
he's an entertaining personality. Really,
Would you have to tell him where Green Bay was?
no,
Okay.
no,
No, I mean,
that was ridiculous.
oh, another guest that I really enjoyed was Devin when he was on Log Cabin Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fascinating episode too.
Because I think it was very educational.
taught us
I mean,
a
to
lot.
me even,
Yep.
but certainly to other people.
Yeah,
I don't think
it's
people know that.
interesting though
exists.
how much he's kind of not concerned about Jeff Sessions as a log cabin Republican.
I don't think that stuff's going to be an issue, but I think the racial stuff.
Why
is
don't you
a
think
bit.
it would be?
Well, because he's attorney general, he's not going to go arrest people for being gay. But we have a track record of arresting people.
No, but you can actually try to work within and get laws created. I mean, give me a break.
Well, he could do that. You know what? He actually has less power as attorney general in that regard than he did in Congress. So I think we're good.
I don't think any of those people are following the lines of government and the boundaries.
Well,
at this
that's a
point.
separate issue, really. It's not that it's him; it's that we have created this issue of too much power in the
if
federal
you-
government and the executive branch in
homophobic
particular.
people you get in the room, the more likely there's going to be a homophobic theme leaving the room. Tell me I'm wrong.
In general, in national politics, I think you're right.
And that's the concern. So I think it's interesting as a person who's
Which is
a
why
log cabin
we need
Republican. I think it's
leaders like
interesting
Mark
to have.
Becker.
No, it's just interesting to have
Right.
someone who. I mean, what is this log cabin Republican thing anyway? If he said, well, we're going to wait and see. It's like you're going to wait and see for what? I mean, you should be absolutely organizing to make sure that these people.
Well,
I
they're
think
conservative.
I think we give it a little bit of time, and we asked Devin to come back and see how it's going.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
So I think we should. We definitely have one more very, very crucial question. But
We do?
before we go, yes, absolutely. It has to be the final question.
Oh.
So do you have anything else you want to say before we get to that final question?
I know what the final question is.
You do now.
I have something I want to say, and this is important. I want to thank
I love you
everyone.
too.
Oh,
Not what you were gonna
I
say.
want to thank everyone who tunes in and watches the episodes or listens to them, especially when the iTunes version doesn't work and I'm alerted quickly. I appreciate that.
That was my fault, by the way.
Obviously.
absolutely.
I spelt the file name wrong. It was supposed to be Political Radar, but for some reason I replaced the O with a U.
Yeah, it was political.
Political.
But I really want to thank everyone who does tune in every week. I want to thank those people who are very involved in a positive way in the community.
Those who share.
And I want to thank my production team, and I absolutely want to thank the hosts who come in every week, at least every week, and sometimes multiple times, and
Except when they're in Florida.
and deal with me with my constant, request for things. So
We all know Elliot's just here for the coffee.
oh yeah.
It's not bad coffee. I'm pretty picky about my coffee. It's pretty good.
Yep. So, thanks to everyone, and especially the host. This is one of my favorite.
No, I'm both surprised, but optimistic that it'll grow from there. But like we have a pretty decent listenership, and it's hard to track down the hard numbers, but we hear things. Like we know where not our influence, but the influence of the people we have on, really, like the word gets out about.
It's out
stuff.
there. I
absolutely.
was actually at the bank, and I had someone I've never met in my life come up and say that they listen to the show. They love it.
I was at
That's
Max's
really
school. I was at Max's school, and she's like, "So I'm like, I know that guy."
All right, what's your?
All right, are you ready for the final question?
Yes, I have an answer.
It's from Wendy.
Yep.
What's your favorite type of sausage?
Obviously, chorizo.
I'm a vegetarian.
That tells you all you need to know.
Oh, and someone else did have another question.
Are you talking about the intro?
Yeah,
one?
yeah, real quick.
This was also from Wendy. We missed this one in the list. Sorry, that was probably my fault.
That's good.
Wendy asked who does our intros and outros for the show, which are edited in post. Those are done by John St. John. For those of you who actually play video games, he's the voice of Duke Nukem.
Yeah. Yep.
Which makes you old by even knowing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or me.
And John's been in the studio too. He's a very funny guy. We hope to have him back again. And also very political and very anti-Trump. So maybe we'll have him on this show one time.
That would be cool.
Yep.
Somebody complained about it though. They didn't like the intro or something, right?
I think it's a little corny.
It
But that's
was
not
meant
his,
to be.
But that's not his
But
fault.
you're
Yeah.
kind of corny.
The script for the intro was written by this gentleman. Just so you know.
Yeah, but sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I had an inkling.
Yeah. But interesting point about John, real quick. He's maxed out the number of friends he can have on Facebook, so a lot of people still follow him. But he started talking about his disdain for Trump, and there's a lot of people who were really mad at him for even expressing any political view, and it's
I don't get that.
And now
I
he
don't
posts
at all.
puppies instead.
I think everybody should be able to. I think you should be open to other views.
Right.
I think that's a failure.
I mean, I know some people who post
but
nothing
stating
but
some views.
crazy political stuff over and over and over.
Right.
That's overkill. But I don't. I never get mad if a celebrity says this is my political view. I may have a different opinion to them afterwards.
Right.
But
Right.
I don't have a problem with that.
Also, my favorite type of sausage is brats.
I have brats way more often, but chorizo, come on.
It's good stuff.
Multicultural.
What about you? What's your favorite type of sausage? Come on.
Italian sausage.
Italian
I think
sausage.
sausage is overrated. Can we just get that out there?
No, it's underrated. I think we should have sausage races all the time.
I think you're not making. You're missing
I think
you're
that
missing
should
my
be our
point.
elections.
So a closing point. Wendy's been great, and I really appreciate a lot of the questions she sent in. Someone had suggested,
and Joseph Prosser and
absolutely. But this point I'm making is about Wendy. Wendy, it's been suggested that she does a parody of one of our episodes.
Oh God.
What do you guys think
For
of
the
that?
love of God,
Absolutely
let it not be
do
this
it.
one.
Everything.
Do Frank
But
Lissay.
I'm going to say Wendy's awesome.
Yep.
Wendy's awesome.
Do the Frank
Wendy's
Lissay
awesome.
episode, Wendy. Do that one.
Maybe you could loop that.
Yeah, right.
Take all of our footage, make us sing whatever you
Why
want.
don't you send her your Premiere file?
Oh boy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Wendy, just get in touch with us.
So are
let
we
us
done?
know. Yep.
Can we wrap this up? Is this an episode number? What's the deal
No,
with this?
this is-
Are we recording this,
This
at
is
all?
ju-
It's a wrap.
It's going to be on YouTube, but
It will be in the feed. Is it's not number 65? It's
so they need it won't be a number, but they need to subscribe on YouTube. Come on,
Yeah.
guys, subscribe on YouTube.
subscribe on YouTube. I try to do that.
Fair-
So there should be a button. Like if
Yep.
you're watching us on the screen.
Yep. There's a button. Click on it, and then there's a little bell.
sponsorship. There's
Yep.
sponsorship opportunities. Don't
how
forget
else will
that.
you find out when we're doing another
And,
live stream?
and subscribe to me. I don't know if it does anything else, but for the most part, it gives you an email that just alerts you that there's a new episode, and that's helpful.
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't you want that? So are we out? Is that it?
That's good.
Did we cut our live stream? Are we off?
Nope.
Can I start swearing at these?
Hey, producer Darian, are we done?
Yeah.